So today I thought we'd go through and rank several people's reviews regarding Black Ops 6. And the first one we're starting with is my personal favorite YouTuber.
Round 1, fight!
That's right, folks, your favorite monetized pay-to-win mechanic in a PvE mode has returned. Though I did not expect the twist that Gobblegums would come back without the gambling, and that they'd be less interesting because of it. You can put the gun down. I'm not advocating for the return of loot boxes. You can put the gun down. I say Gobblegums are less interesting because I don't know how you get them. It just seems to happen at complete random with some like fake slot machine that appears at the top of the screen. What the fuck that's about?
Now I resonate with this, and this isn't really an issue I've talked about with this game. And I think Gobblegums as a whole are nowhere near as interesting and impactful as they once were. And it's not because of the way you unlock them. I think it's because the advantage they provide isn't really there. And it's because of the modern zombies formula. Something like cashback, or if they ever really add it, alchemical antithesis, are not even close to being as useful as they were, because if you need ammo, you can already buy it. The same thing goes for like Perkaholic or Soda Fountain, and it's because there's no perk limit in this game. If you want all the perks, you can just go buy them. But with BO3, these Gobblegums were way more useful because they were pretty much the only way to get extra perks. Even something like Killjoy, which is pretty useful in Black Ops 3, doesn't really matter at all, because if I need to instantly kill something in a moment of tension, well, I've got a Mangler injection already, I'll just use that. It just seems like the Gobblegums are more time savers than something that totally switch up the game. Let's not also mention the fact that you literally spawn with 3 of them now, which makes the Gobblegum machine basically fucking worthless, and I haven't used it since the launch of Season 1.
Now the other major addition is Augments. These are awesome to play around with, but ridiculously boring and stupid to unlock. Basically, each ammo mod, field upgrade, and perk has additional perks that will further enhance that ability. More HP for Juggernog, Deadwire stunning elite units, PhD Flopper turning into PhD Slider. They really got creative here. However, you can only progress one augment at a time because, well, we gotta make our fan base slaves to the grind. How do you think we make money? The only way to progress these augments is to just play zombies. I don't know how it tracks XP, or if it even does, or if doing anything specific speeds up the process, but it's completely arbitrary.
Yeah, I totally agree with this, and it doesn't help that 70% of the augments you painstakingly unlock are completely useless and aren't worth your time.
Unfortunately, Treyarch has committed crimes against Skyrim and her people, and has nothing to say in their defense. What am I talking about? They got rid of the best perk in COD Zombies. Mule Kick. Yeah. Throw your tomatoes. Throw your tomatoes. I'm a dumbass and I'm proud of it. I don't care what anyone says, Mule Kick is the GOAT perk. It is the ultimate freedom to carry 3 weapons instead of being limited to 2. There is no reason not to have it. It is the ultimate risk-reward perk. Let me be a dumbass and carry 3 weapons and think I'm hot shit and later regret the decision to buy Mule Kick when I go down and lose the ray gun. Let me be that guy. Do you know how limiting it feels in this modern era of COD where the grind is everlasting and eternal, where every time you play you want to feel like you're working towards something? Do you know how limiting it is to only be allowed 2 firearms? Do I grind for attachments and camos, or do I use the super fucking awesome laser gun? I don't want to have to make that choice between sacrificing a ray gun or a wonder weapon because I want to feel like I'm progressing outside of that. Or hey, crazy idea, what if you added attachments to the ray gun? Why haven't they done that? That's actually crazy.
This shit makes me want to put this review in F tier, because holy fuck, do I hate Mule Kick, and all of you know it. Do you even understand how long it would take to even fully upgrade a 3rd weapon, let alone a 2nd weapon? By that time, according to Donut's chart, it would literally take you to almost round 40 before you got that weapon done. And by that time, you wouldn't even be able to use the piece of shit. It's a useless perk, and it just shouldn't be in the game. Sorry, King.
Look, I know I sound like an idiot advocating for the return of Mule Kick, but Black Ops 6 is really going for this player freedom, player choice kind of gameplay. And Mule Kick is part of my player choice. It also encourages more use of the mystery box. It's a win-win. Add it back.
Yeah, too bad the point system in this game makes the box completely fucking unusable. Regardless of Mule Kick, you're not using that shit.
Kill streaks were a fantastic addition to zombies, and they thrive in BO6 like they did in Cold War, especially for boss fights where you gotta coordinate with your team to make the most out of what you got, right? You don't want to use the mutant injector if your teammates are already using it. This is one of the cooler kill streaks because it lets you inject the most lethal compound of fentanyl and Walter White's meth to turn yourself into a mangler so you can take out your frustrations against them using their own medicine.
Yeah, you know how I feel about this shit. Completely disagree. These fucking things destroy the entire game, and I've talked about it at length.
And Terminus is more Easter egg quest focused. The layout of this map is much more dynamic. You've got a crashed ship, underground science lab. There's multiple islands that you can travel to with boats. My God, it's like we're playing on an actual zombies map and not just some shit they cobbled together with recycled Warzone assets. It's like somebody actually made this, a real human being. Can you believe it?
I still, to this day, don't understand how anyone enjoyed or defends MWZ, but that's another talk for another time. And he's gonna go on to talk about how the maps don't really differentiate much, and to this day, that's still true, because they all offer the same damn things, which, yet again, I have talked about and will talk about more in a future video.
Now allow me to pitch an idea that would earn Activision a shitload of money and make zombies fans universally happy. Drum roll, please. Zombie Chronicles 2. Do you ever think about how we're still playing on the map Nuketown 5 games and 14 years later? Isn't that strange? I mean, why is it that they keep recycling the— oh, what's up, Call of the Dead? Yeah, I remember you. You showed up once, fucking kicked ass, and then left forever. I miss you, bud. Yeah, it's crazy. You were the only map that wasn't remade for Zombie Chronicles in BO3. Fellas, the time is right. We have all the right mechanics. Black Ops 6 is the perfect opportunity for Zombie Chronicles 2. This game has the right formula to work with older maps. All they have to do is update the visuals, rework the maps to fit with the new mechanics, and then bing, bang, boom, everyone's happy. Here's my money. Pleasure doing business with you.
Yeah, fuck no. I'm sorry, I don't want that shit in this game, because the modern formula just wouldn't work with these maps, and I would rather not have them at all than be tainted with this shit. Imagine how dumbed down George would be if you could just pop a mangler injection every time he spawned and completely farm perks and the Wonder Waff off him. Absolutely terrible decision. I hope it doesn't happen. Honestly though, I will say this is a pretty damn good review, with some things I definitely disagree with, but clearly the Act King knows his zombies. So with that said, he's going into S tier. Now it's time to talk about probably the worst review on this entire list.
Who made that mess?
You did, King.
I made the mess.
Alright, here we go. Black Ops 6 Zombies has quote-unquote released. I took a trip to New Zealand and I wanted to get my thoughts and impressions on the game as a whole. So, how do I think about the maps? I think Terminus can be pretty cool. It has the atmosphere of like Zetsebo. It has that like bluish, like sort of hazy and darkish vibe to it, and I like that quite a lot. And I think they did a pretty good job. The sound design's pretty good as well. We have the classic like Varrock screams randomly playing in different places around the map, and some other stuff as well. So I like the sound design. Seems like they brought back that classic zombies feel there, which I think is a W. So that's great. Liberty Falls is Liberty Falls. I mean, I don't really see much of a huge difference. It literally looks like MWZ. You literally take a screenshot from MWZ and it looks the same.
Yeah, off rip, that's a fucking joke. MWZ looked like dog shit and it had terrible colors. This looks literally nothing like it.
If you've been a viewer of my channel for 4 years now, 5 years now, you know how I feel about modern zombies. You know how much I dislike the Cold War system. I am just so fed up and just sick and tired of this system, bro. And I just wish they would just go back to a somewhat classic feeling game, but they're never going to do that ever again. And they made it abundantly clear that's the case. They confirmed it with this game essentially. So the gameplay is essentially the exact same as what we've had over the past like 5 years. So you can choose your loadouts, you can choose your tactical and lethal, your field upgrade. You also get a melee weapon slot, which is interesting. But one thing I will say about the loadouts this time, they seem to run out of ammo a lot quicker, and they're definitely weaker than they were in Cold War, so I think that's definitely an improvement. But that doesn't really improve the game that much when the game also still has the new point system, so, you know, you get a fixed amount of points regardless of what gun you use, so you have to spend up to 50,000 points in order to upgrade your one weapon, on top of the fact that you have to go to the arsenal station to level up the rarity. It kind of gets to a point where it's just like, if you are going to make us spend 50,000 points to max out our weapons, let us use the old point system with it too, so we can get more points, so we can switch out the guns and actually upgrade other weapons as well, instead of just keeping the one that you have. I don't know, man, it's just frustrating, and I just wish they would go back to a better point system than what we have now. This Cold War system is horrible. I'm just keeping it real. It just makes the game feel so monotonous and boring. So I'm also not a big fan of the rarities as well. I kind of brought it up there as well. It just feels unnecessary to have when you already have multi-tier pack-a-punch. I don't understand it, man. I don't understand it. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, my biggest issue with this entire review is that, like, you say these systems are bad, but you never go into depth as to why. And I understand it's a first impressions video, it's not a full-blown review, but you don't really give reasons as to why something is as bad as it is, and how it affects gameplay or really anything of substance. When I criticize this game, I feel pretty similar to how you do about these systems, but I always try to go out of my way to explain why something is bad and why I don't like it. And I'll go out of my way to compare it to the things we had in the previous games. And I do that deliberately so that everyone can see where I'm coming from and understand why I feel the way that I do.
So there's that. All that stuff is a big negative. Let's talk about the HUD as well. It's kind of an improvement and a downgrade as well. The fact that you can have the classic layout, which is great. But the issue with that is the fact that even if it's still in that classic layout where you can like have your round counter in the bottom left corner and whatnot, it doesn't fix the issue of how the HUD looks. It still looks like the MP HUD. You still have that health bar, you still have the armor bar, you still have all that other stuff, and it's uninspired, and I don't understand why they haven't changed that in 4 years. 4 years of development. Really? You can't make a better HUD than this? I don't understand it, man. I don't get it. Back when Treyarch had 2 years of development, they used to make custom HUDs for zombies. It's nuts. It really is nuts. And I know, you know, oh, you're just complaining, you're whining. No, these are valid criticisms. I mean, come on, 4 years of development, and it's like this. Seriously. It's frustrating, bro. I don't know. I want a better game. Treyarch, do something. Why do you guys do this? Seriously. I don't get it. It makes no sense. Like, I'm convinced at this point that I'm just not the target audience, and maybe it's literally time for me to move on. Maybe it's the case. Maybe I just need to move on.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, as long as the HUD looks good, I don't really give a shit. Everyone acts like it's such a big deal, but it really only is when it's like BO4, where it's an absolute mess that clogs up the entire screen. But that's not Black Ops 6's HUD. I think it's totally fine, and I don't really give a shit or think it's really a negative for the game. And honestly, that's it. That's really the only type of review or anything you have provided. And it's just, no, I'm sorry. I don't think this is a very good video at all. F tier. Now it's time to talk about a review I have already talked about.
Like I'm going insane. Give a nigga a break. Give a nigga a break. How much more can I take? Give a nigga a break.
Now, I've talked about this review before, and I genuinely think it's pretty meh overall. Like, it's good, but he just ends up rambling about shit that doesn't really have any substance. Like him complaining about how transit wasn't in this game. And so honestly, I'm not even going to play this review in depth. I'm just going to give it a C tier. Next, we have to talk about...
Is that dick good? Yes, kid. How good is that dick? Oh, how?
Prior to the release of this game, there were two things I was hammering home. One, be cautiously optimistic with every Call of Duty going forward. Be excited, but be prepared to have your heart broken. And two, this game is going to be a lot like Cold War. It's a lot like Cold War. Who would have thought the direct sequel to Cold War is a lot like Cold War? Like, when all we had at the time were trailers and little tidbits of gameplay and information, people were like, I don't know, man. It's kind of giving me major Cold War vibes. It's like, no shit, dude. So the prism through which I'm going to analyze this game is going to be in direct comparison to Cold War, and it has its differences. I can't even quite put my finger on it, but something I instantly noticed was BO6 does feel a little more like zombies than Cold War. Cold War always felt a little more Warzone-y, multiplayer-ish to me, for whatever reason. I don't know. I can't quite pinpoint it. I think maybe you've noticed the same thing. Don't get me wrong. Cold War was super devoid of like personality and, you know, the whole give a fuck factor. But that game was a mechanical masterclass. It had perfected what the zombies formula had been trying to perfect for a decade plus.
Now, off the rip, I have zero clue what he is talking about on any level. I would say Black Ops 1 Infinite Warfare is infinitely better mechanically than Cold War or Black Ops 6.
Have just common. That part makes sense to me. Why not just simplify things? But they reworked the armor. So now you have to perpetually constantly replace your armor, and instead of using salvage to buy and upgrade it, now you use essence, regular points, which I'm sure when it's all said and done, somehow it all evens up, but to me it just feels like I'm spending a lot more extra points. And another little tweak is now instead of buying your AAT directly from the Pack-a-Punch machine, like you did in Cold War, now you buy at the armory, separate, which is just an adjustment. It doesn't ultimately shift the gameplay too much. It's a little trade-off. Now you get to insta-pap your gun without having to scroll through everything, but now there are several different armor wall buys that you have to keep track of, which honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, now that I say that out loud, kind of annoying.
I actually disagree. I would actually say the armor system is one of my favorite things about Black Ops 6, because it's what pretty much balances the entire game if you're not in a score streak. Even though I actually hate that you spawn with it, I actually like replating. It's only kind of annoying when you only have one plate, but when you have all three, it's actually the only thing that keeps me from falling asleep during a match.
But the point is, the Cold War mechanics return and are about 90% the same. They kept the same perk system, which with each purchase progressively increases the price, which I think to this day is still the best perk system, better than the OG one and way better than the BO4 one. There are no crutch perks. You get to have all of them, and it comes at some sort of cost.
I disagree. I think Infinite Warfare had the best perk system. I just wish you had to earn those slots via doing separate things within the map rather than them just having a scaling price pool.
Also, they got some new ones too, like the big schlong robot. Oh, to give the manglers a taste of their own goddamn medicine. And the fact that you could rip off their arms too. You could just shoot. Like, there's some cool ideas. I'll give them that. Am I surprised that all of these mechanics returned? No. In fact, I would have been surprised if they didn't. Why fix what isn't broken?
Score streaks are broken, but yet again, I've already talked about this in this video.
As of 2 days after the release of this game, on a scale from 1 to 10, I would rank Black Ops 6 a 7, and that is subject to change for better or for worse. I ranked Cold War the same thing when it launched, but I think this game has a higher ceiling. I think it has a higher probability of going up. So as far as is the game good, bad, or mid, well, by definition, if it's a 7 out of 10, I would say good. I would not go as far as to say amazing. Like, let's not kid ourselves. This isn't the second coming of Jesus Christ like every new release is. I know that's what a honeymoon phase does to people, but I would say it's better than solid. I would say it's good. I know a lot of people like to use the word solid.
Honestly, I do agree with his score. I would give it the same. The game is good, but that's all it is. It's not blowing my socks off. I don't really want to replay it that much. But Cold War, I'd give a 5. That game is the definition of mid.
That is my Black Ops 6 Zombies review as of literally a couple days after releases. Hopefully we don't look back on this video and think, wow, that aged extremely poorly.
Well, so far, Tim, I'd say it aged pretty well, so I'm going to give it an A tier. Just because you don't go super in depth with the problems with this game, but given at the time he posted it, it was pretty new. However, he did actually release a new review of Season 1, so let's go take a look.
I took my time really marinating with this map, using all the wonder weapons, and even completing the Easter egg, which a lot of y'all recommended I do to get the full experience, and I'm glad I did, because I felt like this is easily the best Easter egg and boss fight we've had in a very long time.
Yeah, I totally disagree with his boss fight sentiment. I personally think Terminus has a substantially better fight, and I wouldn't even put Citadels in my top 5.
And like Der Eisendrache and Ancient Evil, the highlight of this map are 4 elemental wonder weapons, in this case swords, which are pretty cool. Now, this isn't official or statistically set in stone, but if I had to rank them, I would put the lion at 4th, the elk or the blue or whatever the f you want to call it at 3, the raven at 2, and my personal favorite so far, the dragon at number 1. It just destroys everything. Now, some people have been complaining that the swords aren't quite up to snuff, that they are not as spectacular as the bows from Drak or the gauntlets from Ancient Evil, for example. But I think that's fine. A lot of the wonder weapons we've been getting in zombies recently have just been ridiculously overpowered. And if you really think about it, these in theory are too, because you're not relying on ammo. You endlessly swipe, charge up your power move, and never run out of ammo. And it puts a lot of emphasis on melee macchiato, which in my opinion didn't get a lot of that in the first two maps.
I still disagree. The wonder weapons in this map are still way too weak even after the buff to them. I still think it needs to be 4 because the high round strat on Citadel is hot garbage because of it.
Pretty much everything about this map is just a positive, except for one tiny, I guess you can call it a nitpick. And don't get me wrong, I'm glad the Manglers didn't return. That was like step 1 in the AA program, right? But I don't love the unoriginality of boss zombies. You know, they made the, I don't even know what they're called, the fucking little gas things from Minecraft that run around. They're kind of like the amalgamations, you know, they're not really that original. And then you have the amalgamations returning on top of that. So a little more originality with boss zombies would be great. But hey, at least it's not oops all manglers now.
I think the doppelgasts are actually fucking perfect and totally original. What I will agree with, which is still a fucking problem, is the goddamn vermin being on every single map. The fucking amalgamation is here for the 3rd time in a row. And let's also not mention why the hell the fucking mimic is back. Absolute joke. I hate that they are doing this. This map has the ice staff. Why not just have an occasional panzer spawn and then either just not have any other enemy or reintroduce these guys from the Origins generators? But as a special round where they just run at you and explode on impact. It's just a reskin, but at least it's not the same exact fucking thing again and again and again and again. Like, God, this just pisses me off, man.
That's really it. As far as I'm concerned, Citadel des Morts is the best map in BO6 and one of the best we've had in years and years. Now, where I would draw the line is people online saying it is a top 5 map of all time. Let's slow our roll a little bit, okay? Let's give it a little time to breathe. People get so instantly infatuated with every new thing. Like, every new thing is immediately the best thing. I get it. It's exciting. You're in the honeymoon phase. It is a good map, potentially a great map. Here's a crazy idea. Let's stop worrying about where it ranks all time, a map that just came out like 3 days ago, and let's just enjoy it in the moment and then properly assess it as time goes on. On a scale from 1 to 10, I would give it at least an 8. 9 feels kinda strong, but you could convince me.
Yes, I agree. And this map still is not in my S tier or even close to top 10. I still enjoy Terminus more if I'm being honest. This was a pretty good review. I'm putting it in B tier. Next up is...
Scarcity is back. You are not nearly as overpowered as you were in Cold War. With how expensive ammo is, how zombies don't drop it anymore, you have to be particular in what you spend your points on.
This didn't age well at all. This is still wrong because all you do is spam score streaks and the wonder weapon, so ammo and point conservation means jack shit.
The Amalgam is just a bad boss that's nothing more than a mimic reskin that can heal like the Thrasher. I was very disappointed by this boss, expecting him to be something unique when it's just things we've seen before, which also goes into the next bad point. All the enemies are just old ones back again. The parasites are the bugs from Shadows again. The vermin are spiders from Zetsubo again. They even reuse the same sound effects. The manglers are back again, along with the abominations. There's just nothing inspired about the enemies in BO6. Just throw a bunch of heavy armored zombies into a crowd to soak up your bullets, but provide nothing original.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. The amalgams were at their best in Citadel because they have unique mechanics to them, but every other enemy is pretty meh. And even then, the amalgam on Terminus is fucking awful.
Something that likely won't bother many, but will bother me, is the pause timer in solo. Only 15 minutes? The way I record gameplay is very particular, but it works for me. I go into the game, I get what I need, I pause the game to get back to work. But if I take too long, it will unpause my game and down me. This is the issue of having the game always be online and have even solo matches be server-based. For goodness sake, even Vanguard had a 2-hour pause timer.
so true. The fact we're at season 2 and this still hasn't been increased is ridiculous.
One of the big things they advertised as a selling point was a set crew. But these characters' dialogue and map interaction is so minimal, they basically feel just like operators. The lines are so few and far between, their frequency is no more than in Cold War, and after one match of getting to round 30, you'll have heard almost every line they have to say. I'm very let down by this. Just go back to BO1 and compare how frequently the characters talked and reacted to things, and then play BO6. It's like night and day.
Okay, no more than Cold War is being very hyperbolic, but yes. I wish the characters stood out more, and it's sad because some of the operator dialogue I actually like more than the crew's dialogue. It's just pretty sad, and I can't wait for them to die at this point. Besides Carver, I really like him.
Speaking of Warzone, plating. In zombies. In round-based maps. The absolute dilution of every single mode in Call of Duty into Warzone has now been fully realized. None of the game modes have their own identity. It's all been homogenized into this one system that doesn't fit the modes it's changed. Armor never belonged in zombies, but having to manually plate every time you take damage is just more tedious busy work added to the gameplay.
Yeah, I dislike Black Ops 6, but this point is dragged down and stupid. Armor doesn't mean it's Warzone-ified, it's just a similar mechanic. Like, I don't understand why this keeps being repeated, because it really is just a very bad way of actually critiquing the mode. I hope by next game I never have to hear that argument ever again.
Here's where we get back to the difficulty, which is both good and bad. The guns in this game don't feel strong at all. Even Pack 3 golden level weapons feel incredibly underpowered, but in a way that does add challenge back to the game. So on one hand, yes, I appreciate it, but when ammo is just too expensive to buy and zombies give you less points than ever, sunken cost fallacy shows up. Why would you bother swapping out the weapon you have now for another that may be purple or gold out of the box when you'll have to spend the exorbitant amount of points to pack them anyways? Another reason why bringing back the rarity system, but making it underpowered, was a mistake.
You know what really helps this? The old point system, if I haven't said it enough at this point.
If the menu is a mess, then so is the game flow. If you're seemingly having trouble with BO6 zombies and don't know what the problem is, it might be due to the fact that because we're in the MWZ engine, there's more than 24 zombies on the map at any given time. Which what this does is break the game flow on these round-based maps. You're having so many zombies constantly spawn at you from every angle possible, constantly. There's no flow at all. It's just spamming a mess of zombies at you. And this leads to issues of trying to hit the box and not being able to pick things up when you get trapped, and especially not being able to revive teammates. Training up a full horde is so much more impossible now because of just how many can spawn in at a time. That's why Healing Aura is so much better than the rest of the other field upgrades, because trying to revive your teammates in all of this isn't going to happen.
I actually like this. It keeps the tension up when you're not in a mangler injector. I feel like you should be more specific when you bring up things like the game flow, because it's a pretty abstract term that is hard to not only argue for, but also against, if you know what I mean. It's also why I hate using aura as a term, because it's just too vague. Overall though, this review I'm gonna give an A tier because there is a lot of good points and he actually does go into depth with it. But let me know if you guys want to see more videos like this. Anyway, bye.